What are some of the mistakes that therapists typically make in terms of not only our attitude, but the kinds of things that we actually do and think are necessary in rapport building, for example, with teen clients?
Okay. Well, one is the heavy emphasis on being so empathic and so understanding and so nice. I mean, it sounds okay in theory, I guess. I mean, we do want to be nice and empathic, but you know, these kids walk into a room with someone they don't know and they're just showered with all this empathy and understanding and so forth, and it just feels weird. It's weird. It's like, you don't know me. Why are you being so, you know, it's just claustrophobic and overwhelming, and they don't know how to connect to it, and they don't know what to do with it. It's not a full relationship. It's half of a relationship. It's just the nice half, and it's not balanced by the therapist communicating that in addition to being understanding and empathic, he or she is also going to be able to hold the child accountable for the choices that he or she makes and their impact on other people. Because otherwise what happens, I think the problem with that whole platform of approaching kids with empathy and understanding only ends up not only with the kid not being able to connect to the therapist, because it's kind of weird, but secondly, it discourages the therapist from addressing certain things that are coming up in the session and between herself, let's say, and the teenager that may be difficult to talk about, and they think that addressing it will fracture this new relationship, and so they're hesitant to bring up things, and the kid knows that the therapist is not bringing up something because the therapist thinks it might fracture the rapport, and that dynamic is all wrong. And
so tell us, give us an example of that, because this really reminds me. And I just before I was looking at your website, and you've captured this nicely on your website, a review of one of your books, where a network reviewer referred to you as someone who could have been a great therapist for Holden Caulfield, because you're very exquisitely tuned in to the idea of phoniness. And really what you're describing for us now is how often therapists perceive therapists as these cardboard characters, these phonies. So this whole issue of walking on eggshells. So what's the kind of thing, if you could think of an example of the kind of thing that a therapist might very cautiously avoid, that might be addressed in a more direct fashion with a teen?
Sure. A therapist might avoid saying something, like some teenagers will come in and they're kind of mixing it up with the therapist. They're being a little, dodgy or, playful, but it's really designed to kind of put them off or to make them not know what to say. And so a therapist who is being too careful and doesn't want to say anything about that, doesn't want to upset the kid, is trying to get them to see, hey, I'm really nice and I'm friendly and I'm here to help you, may walk on eggshells rather than saying something like, you have my tongue so twisted in here, I don't know what to say, rather than trying to make it work. Or sometimes kids they'll say something rude to a parent. I had, for instance, a supervisee who was a school counselor, and she was asking me, what do I do when my student comes in and she picks up the phone to her mother and she just screams at her for like 10 minutes, like cursing and saying all these horrible things, and I don't want to just sit there. I feel I should say something, but I don't want to say, oh, you can't do that. What should I do? And I suggested to her that maybe something along the lines of, when the kid got off the phone, just looking at her and saying, I can't believe your mom stays on that long. Because you're not confronting her like, you shouldn't do that, because that's the mom's job. Yet you're not sitting there feeling you have to witness something that you feel is inappropriate. You don't want to go along with it. So what's the thing you can say or do that comments on it without mandating any kind of change?